Okay, hey everyone, it's your favorite teacher again, Miss H, and today we're learning about conflict, or I should say, we're reviewing conflict because we've already been talking about it. So conflict is any issue that a character is having in a book, that is conflict. And there's three types of conflict, and whenever you forget what they are, you can look up at the purple poster right there so you can remember. The three types of conflict are person versus person, that's someone fighting another person. Person versus society, that's when one person is fighting a large group of people. And then person versus self, when one person is fighting against themselves, okay? So the three types of conflict are person versus society, and person versus self. Now, a good example of a person versus person conflict in our book so far is the wrestling match. There were two people and they were wrestling. That's a person versus person conflict. Two people were fighting against each other, they had an issue with each other, and they were wrestling. That's person versus person conflict. An example of a person versus society conflict is when one person or a couple of people are going against a large group of people, like all of society. And a really good example of that comes from what we talked about during our Black Lit Story projects, when Colin Kaepernick was doing his protest and was kneeling during the national anthem. A lot of people got upset because he was doing this. So Colin Kaepernick was one person going against a large group of people to do this protest, okay? So that's a really good example from real life of person versus society conflict. Anytime it's one person or a couple of people going against a really large group, that's person versus society. And then finally, person versus self conflict. And I'm going to turn it over to a special guest star to talk about person versus self conflict. Oh wait, I need to turn the camera around.
So a person versus self conflict is someone fighting themselves. An example of this is someone struggling to quit using drugs. They're fighting with themselves to stop. Another example is a student who is lazy and failing class. They're struggling and fighting with their self in order to get motivated and pass.
Okay, and just like Mariah said, so person versus self, anytime a person is fighting with their own self over something. And we're going to see this happen with Okonkwo when he has this like internal struggle and he's fighting against himself. So now, answer number 6, pick a conflict happening and things fall apart and describe what type of conflict it is. You can't use the wrestling match example that I already used. You have to use something different. Then you're going to raise your hand and I'll tell you how to complete the rest of the assignment. Okay, enjoy the work. Get ready for that quiz.